Testing. 1, 2, 3. Archive number 077 is now recording. This is L. What you are about to hear is not meant for public consumption. It is a confidential analysis, an introspection on power, control, and the illusion of free will in a world manipulated by unseen forces. Consider it a study in the grand game we call life, a chessboard where every move is predetermined for most, yet only a few dare to challenge the rules. Today we discuss the grand chessboard. The world is not as chaotic as it may appear. It is a game meticulously arranged by those who truly understand control, and you are a piece on this board. The question remains, are you merely a pawn or have you the capacity to be a player? Every chessboard is defined by its boundaries, and the rules that govern the movement of its pieces. In our world, the board is the very fabric of society, the institutions, traditions, laws, and ideologies that shape our existence. Each piece on this board, whether it be a nation, an institution, or an individual, is assigned a role. Most of you move predictably, following paths laid out long before you were even aware of the game. Take, for example, the case of Kira. Kira believed himself to be the arbiter of justice, a divine force operating outside the constraints of the law. Yet, his power was not simply in the death note he wielded, it was in the narrative he created. He transformed himself from an ordinary man into a symbol, a figure that commanded fear, respect, and ultimately obedience. His every move, calculated and deliberate, turned his followers into pawns, while he, in his arrogance, assumed the role of a player. But what distinguishes a pawn from a true player? A pawn moves forward, step by step, with little understanding of the overall strategy. It obeys rules it did not create, sacrificing itself for an abstract cause. A player, however, is not constrained by such limitations. A player sees the board in its entirety, anticipates the opponent's moves, crucially, has the capacity to alter the rules. I have spent countless hours analyzing the structures of power. The board is set long before you step into the game, and the pieces are manipulated by those who understand the hidden laws of influence. Most live as pawns, content with the limited freedom afforded to them. They do not see that every decision they make, every move they play, has been influenced by the system. Consider the social norms you abide by, the ideas of success, morality, and even the very concept of freedom. Were they chosen by you, or were they instilled by generations of power structures, designed to maintain order? Kira exploited these very notions. By presenting himself as both judge and enforcer, he convinced the masses that his vision of justice was their only salvation, and in doing so, he revealed a fundamental truth, that control is most effective when it is invisible. Yet, even as a pawn, you have potential, for every piece on the board is part of a larger pattern, and even the lowliest pawn may one day become a queen, if only it can see beyond its confines and challenge the very rules that bind it. Now, let us delve deeper into the mechanics of the game. Let us examine how the board is constructed, how the rules are established, and how Kira managed to shift the balance in his favor, even if only temporarily. Most individuals are convinced that they make choices freely. They believe their decisions are the product of independent thought, but the reality is far more insidious. The choices you believe you are making are often illusions, a set of options predetermined by the system. Take the phenomenon of the illusion of choice. You are offered two candidates in an election, two brands on a shelf, two ideologies in debate, yet the underlying framework remains unchanged. The board is still the same, and your moves are confined within its boundaries. In essence, you are playing a game in which every option has been calculated to lead to the same outcome. Kira understood this well. He manipulated the narrative so expertly that his supporters believed they were choosing freedom, when in fact, they were accepting his will. Through calculated actions, Kira created an environment where opposition was not only futile but unthinkable. The media, the law enforcement, even the common citizen, all played their parts. They were drawn into a network of influence that masked the true source of power. Consider the way information is disseminated. Every news broadcast, every social media post is a move on the board, carefully designed to reinforce the existing order. The narratives you accept as truth are crafted by those who control the flow of information. This is how Kira rose to power. He was not simply a man with a notebook. He was a master of narrative, a manipulator of belief. His every move was calculated to exploit the vulnerabilities of the human mind, to harness the power of fear and conviction. To break free from this illusion, one must first see it for what it is. You must question every choice presented to you. Ask yourself, who benefits from my selection? Is this option truly free, or is it a trap designed to keep me moving along predetermined lines? The game of chess, like the game of influence, is structured by rules, but these rules are not immutable. They are constructs fragile, malleable, and subject to change when challenged by those who dare to question them. In examining Kira's rise, we see that his power was not absolute. It was contingent upon the collective belief of the masses. Once that belief wavered, his control diminished, and therein lies the paradox. True influence is not about imposing will by force. It is about crafting a narrative so compelling that the people willingly surrender their autonomy. The illusion of choice is the most elegant form of control, and as long as you believe you are free, you will never see the strings that bind you. Next, I shall discuss how this illusion is maintained, and how even the most seemingly autonomous individuals are ensnared in the web of predetermined moves. To transform from a mere pawn into a true player requires more than passive awareness. It demands action, strategy, and above all, a willingness to challenge the status quo. The journey from obedience to autonomy is not a straightforward one. It begins with a radical act of introspection. You must scrutinize the beliefs that govern your actions. Every thought, every decision is influenced by the environment in which you were raised. The educational systems, the media, the cultural narratives, all contribute to the framework of your mind. I have spent countless hours analyzing these influences, and yet, one example stands out. Kira. For a time, Kira transcended the role of a mere pawn. He attempted to become the player, to rewrite the rules of the game according to his own vision of justice. His actions, however, were driven by a dangerous mix of ambition and hubris. He believed that by eliminating the weak, he could impose his will without question. But therein lay his fatal flaw. To truly become a player, one must understand that power is not merely taken. It is earned through knowledge, strategy, and the subtle manipulation of perception. A player does not simply seize control. A player creates an environment in which control is inevitable. Consider the concept of asymmetric warfare. The idea that a smaller force can overcome a larger one by exploiting weaknesses in the system. This is not solely a military tactic. It is a philosophy of resistance. When you understand the game, you learn to identify the cracks in the foundation. You learn to see that the board is not static. It is fluid, ever-changing. To break free from the role of a pawn, you must educate yourself. Seek out unfiltered information. Do not rely solely on mainstream narratives. Question authority. Challenge the sources of your beliefs. Ask why certain ideas are accepted without question. Develop strategic foresight. Learn to anticipate moves before they are made. Understand that every decision is part of a larger pattern. Collaborate with like-minded individuals. Even the greatest players rely on trusted allies. Together you can begin to alter the game from within. I recall when Kira first emerged as a force. A man with a vision so extreme that he believed he could cleanse the world of crime through sheer will. His methods were radical, and his tactics, though effective for a time, were ultimately unsustainable. His downfall was not due solely to external opposition, but to the inherent instability of a system built on fear and absolute control. True autonomy lies not in imposing your will on others, but in liberating yourself from the unseen forces that dictate your actions. When you begin to see the chessboard for what it truly is, a construct, a series of imposed rules, you can start to rewrite your destiny. Each move you make has consequences. Each decision is a step towards either further entrapment or genuine freedom. The transformation from pawn to player is arduous. It requires the dismantling of long-held beliefs and the courage to embrace uncertainty. But once you grasp the true nature of the game, you may begin to see that even the smallest move can alter the outcome of the entire board. As the game progresses, the endgame becomes inevitable. But in the realm of influence and control, there is no final move, only a constant evolution of power. The true players do not seek to simply win. They aim to redefine the board itself. Kira, in his hubris, believed that by eliminating those he deemed unworthy, he could establish a new order, one where his will reigned supreme. For a time he succeeded, but the moment his narrative became predictable, the system turned against him. His downfall was not merely the result of external forces, but the collapse of the very illusion he had constructed. Consider this. The rules of the game are not immutable. They are written, revised, and sometimes entirely rewritten by those who have the vision and the courage to challenge the status quo. The endgame, then, is not about checkmate. It is about transformation. It is about recognizing that the board is yours to shape, that you are not confined to the role of a mere piece. To redefine the rules, you must first dismantle the old ones. This requires not only intellectual rigor, but also emotional fortitude. The established order is comfortable, even if it is a prison. Change, by its very nature, is unsettling. Yet, it is the only path to genuine freedom. As you contemplate your place on the chessboard, ask yourself, do you accept the board as it is, or do you dare to alter it? True power lies in the ability to challenge accepted norms, and to envision a world unbound by the old constraints. It lies in the willingness to sacrifice comfort for the sake of progress. The legacy of a true player is not measured in fleeting victories, but in the lasting impact they leave behind. When you start to question every rule, every assumption, you begin to see the patterns of control. And once you see those patterns, you have the potential to disrupt them, one calculated move at a time. Remember, the game is eternal. The board will always exist, but the pieces, the roles, and the players can change. You have the capacity to be more than a pawn, to become a master of your destiny. The question remains, are you willing to challenge the rules, to risk everything for the sake of truth, or will you continue to play the game as it has been handed to you? This is not a call to arms, but a call to awareness. The grand chessboard is not just a metaphor. It is the very structure of our existence, and in that structure, every move matters. In the end, the true measure of a player is not the victories they achieve, but the questions they dare to ask. The board is set. The pieces are moving. The choice is ultimately yours. Will you remain a pawn, or will you seize the opportunity to become a player? This is L, signing off. May your moves be deliberate, your insights profound, and your mind ever free from the shackles of imposed control.